Under the stewardship of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, the National Family Health Survey on Wednesday released data for Phase 2 states along with all India data regarding the fertility rates. The report suggested that India's fertility rate had gone down below the replacement level, meaning that the two parents will not be replaced by their two offsprings. However, the report did not have the religious data. Upon digging around, one found a Pew Research report of the year 2015 to 16, which threw up some interesting facts. Keeping both reports in each hand, one can figure out that Hindus might have already gone down below the replacement level, while Muslims will still be above and expanding more rapidly while Hindus continue to shrink. Hi and welcome. You're watching TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Tribhuvan, and in this video I will tell you why Hindus have a fertility rate that will turn them into minorities in India. Let's begin. India appears to have defused the ticking time bomb of population explosion, as the total fertility rate, also known as TFR, or the average number of children born to a woman over her lifetime, has fallen down below the replacement level of 2. According to data released by National Family Health Survey, also known as NFHS, of 2019 to 2021, the replacement level, which is the level at which parents are replaced by their children, has been estimated at 2.1. While the NFHS data has not compiled a separate religion column to make clear the fertility rates of respective religious groups that make up the population of India, a Pew Research report can help extrapolate the data better. The 2015 Pew Research report gave the religious numbers, where it was suggested that Muslims were the most fertile of religious groups with a rate of 2.6. Meanwhile, Hindus were around the 2.1 mark, with other minorities coming behind. The report said Muslims still have the highest fertility rate among India's major religious groups, followed by Hindus at 2.1. Jains have the lowest fertility rate, that is 1.2. The general pattern is largely the same as it was in 1992, when Muslims had the highest fertility rate at 4.4, followed by Hindus at 3.3. But the gaps in childbearing between India's religious groups are generally much more smaller than they used to be. While the difference of 0.5, and that too in 2015, might not look rather drastic or alarming, but it does raise certain points. For a better picture, let's wind the clock back to a few decades. At the time of independence, in the first census of 1951, Hindus were the majority with 84.1% of the total population. However, by 2011 census, Hindus only make up 79.8% of India's 1.2 billion total inhabitants. That is 0.7 percentage point less than in the previous census of 2001 and 4.3 points below the 84.1% recorded in 1951. Meanwhile, the share of Muslims grew from 13.4% in 2001 to 14.2% in 2011, up by a total of 4.4 percentage point since 1951. When the census found that Muslims comprised 9.8% of the India's population. Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists and Jains, who together make up nearly all the remaining 6% of the population, were relatively stable in their shares since the 1951 census. Statistical analysis of census and survey data shows that fertility has been by far the biggest driver of the religious change in the decades since the partition, with Muslims taking the cake. It is also important to remember that for every single percentage down, Hindus, owing to their larger population, tend to have a large chunk of their population wiped compared to Muslims. Thus, the Muslims with their comparatively higher fertility rate still continue to replace themselves as well as the Hindus. Despite the absence of NFHS religious data, the estimates cannot be far off, taking a rough gander at the state-wise data. States like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar have fertility rates of 2.4 and 3.0 respectively. According to the 2011 census data, Muslims' population in Bihar was 1.76 crore, which is 16.87% of total 10.41 crore, which somewhat speaks about the still prevalent higher overall fertility rates. The 2021 census data will further shed light on the current distribution of population. Meanwhile, as per the census of 2011, Muslim population in Uttar Pradesh was also on the high side at 3.85 crore, which is 19.26% of total 19.98 crore population. The population decreasing is heartening news, but with Hindus more or less below the replacement level, their numbers might take a severe beating. if Muslims continue to stay above the replacement level. There is still a major chunk of Muslim population that is extremely backward and not prone to using contraceptives or educating themselves about the perils of regenerating at higher levels. Thus, the population control bill and its demand is a double-edged sword for the Hindus. They are already below the replacement level, with other minority groups like Jain and Parsis in even dire straits.